Hey, Dr. Holly, welcome to the governor's residence here in my office, and I'm thrilled you're here for an important conversation about education. I know that that is incredibly important to you. Obviously, it is to me, and so I'm glad we get a chance to sit down.
I am thrilled to be here. It's my first time ever in the governor's residence in your office. So excited to be here and to talk about one of my personal passion projects, education, 20 years as an educator. And you've done so much this year with education, with your budget. And I wanted to be able to share this the rest of the Commonwealth. So I have a series of questions. The first one is, please share an example of some bipartisan leadership that was done effectively and so well in regards to education this year.
I want to answer your question directly, but let me just say why I'm so passionate about education.
Sure.
I think it's the foundation for everything. We got to give all God's children a shot, right? And there's a lot of different factors that go in depending upon where you're from or, whatever your particular circumstances are. But the one thing that is constant throughout is if you give a kid a great quality education, they're going to have an opportunity to succeed. Now, they're going to define success however they want, on whatever their terms are. We got to give them that foundation. For the last probably 50 years, lawmakers in the Capitol have known that our current system of funding public education was broken. And we learned about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago now, that our current system of funding education is not only broken, but it's literally unconstitutional. Unconstitutional for two basic reasons. One, we weren't investing enough in public education. And two, the dollars we were investing weren't getting to the schools that needed it most. So the thing I'm probably most proud of is that we brought Democrats and Republicans together to pass a new formula, which sounds really nerdy and boring, but it's important because it decides how the dollars go out to what schools. So now the money's going to the schools that need it most. And we invested a record amount in public education. And we did that on a bipartisan basis. We brought Democrats and Republicans together to get that done. I'm really proud of that.
What do you think most Pennsylvanians would be surprised to know about education and your initiatives so far this year?
I was really proud of the fact that we passed universal free breakfast, meaning when kids show up at school now, they can get free breakfast. And I was proud we got that done. And as I was out talking about it, so many people were shocked to know that that wasn't something that was done before. And by the way, they were also shocked to find out how many students go to school hungry in the morning. Almost 500,000 students in Pennsylvania, kids, go to school hungry because they're food insecurity. So I think that's something that, I was really pleased to get done, but also I was somewhat surprised that others were surprised about all that.
You also have an initiative, I understand, about period poverty. What have you done to address that issue also in the state?
So this was totally driven by my wife, Lori, our First Lady of Pennsylvania. She has made a point to get out and about all across Pennsylvania, and particularly to go to nonprofits that are, not really in the newspapers every day or getting attention, but are doing really important work. And she went to one particular nonprofit that was trying to address period poverty. She learned a whole lot about how many, girls and young women literally miss school because they get their periods and they can't afford period products each month. And so we later, as we dove into it more, learned that in our schools, in our public buildings, our public universities, we don't make period products available for free. You make paper towels available, you make soap, you make, toilet paper, you make everything else, but you don't make period products. It doesn't make any sense. And so Lori came home and challenged me, as she is known to do, where she will say, you better fix this. And she challenged me to put money in my budget that would allow schools to be able to procure period products on an ongoing regular basis. But Lori, our First Lady, she made that happen.
Credit where credit's due.
That's right.
Absolutely. And women's health is such a critical issue, and people think when they hear about period poverty, it's for another country. No, it's right here in our state, right here in our country. So that's phenomenal.
I don't know why people are so afraid to talk about it.
I don't understand. And I know that it shouldn't have a stigma. It's healthcare. It's just healthcare. How do you go about making decisions regarding your educational goals?
The truth is, the best intel I get is from listening to students or listening to parents, right? Listening to teachers tell me, hey, this is what's going on in my classroom. Or students saying, this is where we're lacking, like, for example, on mental health services, right? So I do a lot of listening, And then I take those things I pick up, particularly if you hear it over and over again, you know then it's a problem elsewhere. And I bring it back to the office and I'll challenge my team and say, we got to fix this. Now, sometimes it gets fixed with more investment, more dollars.
Okay.
Sometimes it's not about dollars, it's cutting through red tape or just making things happen more quickly. That's the kind of stuff we do.
More efficiently.
Yeah.
Going back to your citing mental health, I know you've done some work with initiatives with mental health in this year's budget in schools. Can you explain a little bit about that?
This actually goes back years and years and years. I was Attorney General of Pennsylvania, and we launched a new app on your phone called Safe to Say. The idea behind Safe to Say was you could anonymously report a tip of a threat of violence in your community. God forbid someone was bringing a gun to school or someone was going to harm someone at school. It would give students an ability to anonymously report that. But here's where I was wrong. Very few of the tips, thank God by the way, are about some student who's going to harm another student. Very few. But 80% of those tips that have come in are actually about student mental health and students crying out for help. We were the first state to launch an app like this. So, we now have data driven by students saying we need help. We need mental health services. Another example of how we just listened. And then we took that data, took that input, took that feedback from students. And I've now passed 2 budgets that have appropriated over $200 million just for schools to be able to hire mental health counselors and provide mental health services in their schools. And we're finding anecdotally that students are better off because of this, they're healthier because of this. When you have young people crying out for help and you're an adult in the room, you got a responsibility to provide that help. It also alleviates the burden that exists on teachers right now to not just teach math or science or whatever it is they're teaching, but they're also acting as counselors oftentimes. And so this takes a little bit of burden off of them as well.
What's on the horizon for 2025 as it relates to education? Any teasers that you can give us?
Continuing to make sure we're funding our schools at a constitutional level, allowing our schools that are crumbling to get the dollars they need to repair themselves, more resources for student-teacher stipends so that we can put more teachers in the classroom, things like that. But stay tuned. You should come back for my budget address. You'll hear me talk more about education.
I would love to.
Good. Thanks, Dr. Holly. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.